Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to do another top 30 character snapshot meta update. We've had quite a few characters join us. We've had some uniforms shift some characters around. We had Luna Snow, we had Black Panther, and I wanted to look at this again about a month later, take your considerations and your comments into this list as I do every single time, and give you a renewed perspective on the best characters in the game and what it means for the game moving forward, and what we could then hope for or look for in other new characters that are yet to come, or uniforms that are as of now unseen. So I want to slap up the first or the old list first of all, just so you can get a good look at how things were about a month ago, just before the drop of Luna Snow. You might think that not much has changed, but I found a way to change quite a bit, and I think you'll understand more once we dive into it. So if we put the two lists side by side, you can start to see what I've done. Essentially, I knocked off some of the stragglers that I felt just weren't making enough sense on the list overall and weren't impactful enough in the game individually. So I completely knocked off Supergiant, Carnage, Vulture, and Rogue. A lot of you guys asked questions about those characters. You questioned their power level or why they were there. Vulture is probably the one that's going to get the most support to be back on the list, but if you even start comparing him to the people at the very bottom of the top 30, it's basically, you know, apples to apples. They're almost as powerful as each other, so there's a reason for him not being there versus being there. The only big pull for him is that he's a villain, but I've just found him to be a little bit lacking lately when I use him. A couple of big surprises as well. Sharon Rogers appearing below Luna Snow. So I do think Luna Snow is ahead of Sharon Rogers. Black Panther and Shuri also making their debut. So we have 3 new characters in addition, and a few more shifting around overall. But I am pretty happy with this list. If you notice this list compared to the old list, there aren't as many characters moving around. There aren't as many big shifts in score, and there are more characters now that have the same score or at the same place in the meta in the top 30 as last time. That's actually good. You don't want the meta to be shifting too much and too drastically update after update, because it kind of lends itself negatively to things like power creep and lazy development of characters that are just blatantly overpowered. But we do want to see some subtle shifts, more akin to game mode changes, or alterations to how we play certain game modes, how we value certain game modes, which will then affect how we value certain characters. And I think if you paint with those brushstrokes, you have a much better chance of making the game enjoyable and fun for a long time, and also making these kinds of lists relevant. So moving now specifically and exclusively onto the new list, I want to go through it pretty quickly and give you my thoughts on why characters are where they are. I don't want to touch on the characters that are in the same place, because it kind of implies itself. They haven't moved. They're still the best. They're still 4th best or whatever. But I want to talk about the others. A big change I think that a lot of you guys are going to notice is Doctor Strange. He moved up ahead of Thanos. I think some people are going to have problems with that, but I agree with it, and I think that he perhaps could even move up a spot more ahead of Apocalypse, because he just does everything. He's the jack of all trades. He's a very easy character to understand, and he basically turns the game into easy mode. The time freeze, the all debuff, and the spam skills with his 5th skill unlocking the cooldown for all of his skills. So I do appreciate the character's overall power level, despite the fact that he isn't #1 in any game mode anymore. Scarlet Witch as well moved up 3 spots. A lot of you guys were telling me that Scarlet Witch deserves to have a higher place on the meta, and I thought about it more, and she's one of the elusive characters with that native penetration chance on recovery spell, where she can, not recovery spell actually, her tier 2 passive, where she has a 60% chance to penetrate at all times. And that's a really big deal, and moving forward it appears to only become more of an issue, and the fact that she has things like heal, summons, reflect just makes her even more powerful, in addition to things like silence that she has, and massive DPS, and mind damage buffs, and mind damage mind defense buffs debuffs with different skills. So I do think she deserves to be in the top 10. Another one who I thought deserves to be in the top 10 after careful consideration and after facing off against him more often in things like Alliance Conquest and Timeline Battle is Blue Marvel. Now, while I obviously don't have my Blue Marvel at the max yet, and that is what the meta snapshot is, I've seen enough of him to know that he's on the cusp of being very powerful, and I think if Netmarble valued defenses more, he would probably be in the top 5 because he's so tanky, not only with the invulnerable body but the iframes for days, and his damage is just magnificent. The burst on his 5th and his 4th are just really good, and overall he can just do everything well. Even his leadership has some possibilities for certain team composition. So a lot of you guys were saying that I was sleeping on Blue Marvel. Hopefully this new score in the top 10 does him justice. Because of those shifts, I had to move a couple of characters down. A lot of you guys said that I was too high on Ant-Man, and I agree. He's a bit of a one-trick pony, so he moved down, as did Cable. Spider-Man 2099, I didn't want to move him down, but I just don't see him being more powerful than Ant-Man or Blue Marvel. He is very good, and he is particularly good in things like PvP one-on-one, but he struggles in a 3v3 scenario. He's not as good, and he doesn't have the damage, of course, to compete with the burst of those other characters above him. Cable, Dormammu, Odin are kind of self-explanatory. I think Luna Snow fits in right there. I was debating whether to put her a little bit higher than that, possibly above Odin, maybe above Dormammu. Her only weakness is the defenses, that she can still get one shot because she doesn't have any passive healing or passive revive. She has the active heals, but on auto they just won't trigger sometimes. But I still think that she's in a pretty nice spot in the middle of the pack, with a low emphasis on ABX. Please keep that in mind. Sharon Rogers, Spider-Man, Magneto, pretty much the same. And then here's where things get interesting. I really enjoyed the second half of this list because it's a bit more shaken up, and I decided to put much more of an emphasis on characters overall rather than some of the prestige I had been giving to the Black Order that a lot of people seem to disagree with month after month of these snapshots. Black Panther comes in at number 19. He's the new reigning champ for Combat Extreme Alliance Battle. Insane burst damage potential now with his new uniform, and that's basically it. The good thing about Black Panther though is that even on auto he's going to do something for you. With 3 of his skills protecting him in some way, he's going to be a headache even on something like Alliance Conquest, which definitely puts him in a good position moving forward. I also moved up Hulk because a lot of you thought he was a bit low, and I tend to agree. He's quite difficult to kill. Loki I had to move down because of all these new characters. That's why he's down exactly 3 spots to make way for Black Panther and Luna Snow, and then Hulk's movement. I decided to put Shuri just below Loki because while she doesn't have as much damage as Loki, she's definitely a very powerful character, and especially with her uniform, she gets 7 seconds of immunity, which is basically easy mode, coming up to the level of Doctor Strange with his 6 seconds of immunity. And her Panther God protection should not be underestimated. 45% increased damage is a lot, but she also gives a 35% decrease, which is more than Coulson and more than Valkyrie. So she has technically the best support tier 2 passive in the game. She has native ignore dodge. She is not to be trifled with. A very powerful character, self buffs, all the good stuff. I'm thinking of putting her a little bit higher, closer to Black Panther in my opinion. Enchantress is there on the list, Corvus is there, but he dropped a lot of spots. And then here is where I would have had the Black Order, but then I just thought they're just not that good anymore. Agent Venom still has crazy burst damage and AoE. He's got skills with iframes, guard, and invincibility, so he basically does it all. Self-buffing leadership, the whole 9. X-23 is only getting better. She appears to be a bit bugged in terms of her damage because even at tier 1 she's doing crazy numbers, but that's just for the better. She's a bit inconsistent at times, but if you give her enough defense to buttress her low stats as a speed character, she really shows and shines in certain game modes. I also dropped Cyclops a couple spots. I know you guys don't like him, but I'm still super high on the hero turned villain. I pulled Thor back into the fold because I think I was overly harsh on his nerf. It did hurt him a lot, but he's still a very good character, and I compared him to some of the Black Order that I had kind of left at the bottom of the list. He's got 5 seconds of immunity, self-buff, multiple iframes. He can now play well on auto in addition to playing well on manual, and he's got a chance to penetrate immunity. I think that's a pretty awesome package, all rolled into the one, all with a medium-priced uniform that, you know, makes him a lot better of a character. So I thought he deserved to be back on the list, and then I ended it off with Ebony Maw and Proxima. Let me know what you guys think of the list. Adam Warlock, of course, losing 1 spot. I still think that he deserves to be in the top 30, but it's a month later, a month after his release, and people still haven't figured out how to use him. He's still reflecting damage and killing himself. He's extremely annoying in Alliance Conquest, so his value there should not be understated. He might be top 15 or top 10 specifically for Alliance Conquest, but other than that, he's a bit underwhelming, a bit lackluster, so I'm just kind of scratching my head as to where he should go. But let me know what you guys think of the list. Let me know what you think of the changes, and if there are any characters that I'm missing from this list altogether. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me, and of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.